we're starting this video strong with Divine Rivals, which obviously this is like a fan fave. I feel like everyone has read this already and everyone loves this book. And I have had this on my physical TBR since like October, I think it was. I feel like I resonate with that sentiment that people have, like if there's a book that's overhyped, they're scared to read it. That was me with this book because honestly, everyone is obsessed with it and I have not wanted to pick it up because I'm scared to get disappointed. But we're gonna go ahead and see what this is about. I really have not too much. I don't have like a good idea of what this is about. I just know that it's about two writers or like two journalists that they're enemies to lovers. They work together, they dislike each other, and obviously if it's enemies to lovers, I'm guessing there's gonna be a romance going on. I don't know if this is like fantasy romance or just romance. I really haven't read much about it, so let's see how this goes. I'm excited. So I am on page 56, chapter 7, and hello. This cover is so pretty. So far, I really like how this author writes. I feel like from the beginning, I was like hooked. I like where it's going. And I feel like usually with a lot of books, I'm so bored in the beginning. I'm not hooked till midway or when something crazy happens. But with this book, what I'm experiencing is that I'm actually enjoying it and I'm only 50 something pages in. This tells a story of Iris and Roman. She's poor. Her brother Forrest just went out to war and left her and she's heartbroken and she is a journalist now. Roman is this rich kid. They are competing to get a paper in the column, it's called, and they are writing papers back and forth. Iris literally despises Roman and vice versa. But where I'm at right now, this is where I'm starting to see where they're gonna start liking each other. I know like the fantasy aspect of this book is also starting to shine through because it's talking about gods and goddesses. This is where I get a little lost because once they start like world building a little bit, I'm a little confused because the war that her brother is out in the middle of has something to do with like a god and a goddess. I'm still not quite understanding that aspect of things, but I'm really loving Iris and Roman. I forgot to mention that she was writing letters to Forrest. She never sent them out because he never wrote to her even though he promised he would. He had given her a coat and he had left a letter there for her. So she was writing letters for him and putting them in that coat, acting like Forrest was gonna read them. But somehow these letters were arriving in Roman's room and Roman wrote back and was like, hey, this is not Forrest. You're already getting a feel for the characters, which I love. I feel like I have high hopes for this book. I already am loving it. We'll see how this goes. Please excuse my appearance. I am on page 218 and this is just the beginning of part 3. This book is giving me a 6-star feel right now. I almost don't want it to end because it has gotten so freaking good. I don't remember what the last update was. I know I told you guys that Iris's brother Forrest went out to war. Something tragic happened. I don't want to spoil too much. She just no longer wanted to be in the town of Oath, which is where they're from. So she decided to become a war correspondent, be a journalist for the war. She left and now she is still communicating through the magic typewriter portal situation with Roman, but she has no idea that it's Roman. She thinks it's this anonymous person named Carver. She is like falling in love with this anonymous person that she's been writing to, and she has found out new information thanks to him about the war, about why the war started, and also how they're even magically communicating. Things have gotten a lot more interesting. I feel like I'm connecting so well to the characters. I love the world building because it's not like a crazy amount of world building. It's like very very digestible. Okay, so I actually looked up the pronunciation of the god that's in this book, which is the reason that they're at war right now. And I kept saying Dakra. I did not know how to pronounce it, and it's actually Dacre. It's spelled D-A-C-R-E. But yeah, that's just a little update. Ladies and gents, we have created quite the dent on this book. I literally have less than 100 pages left. But I could not get myself to finish this book yesterday because the stakes were extremely high at a certain point and my anxiety was just as high. I was listening to a playlist on Spotify while I was reading it, and I'll show you which one, but I really just looked up Divine Rivals, and it's this one right here. I was crying at a certain point. Stakes were high. They were in the middle of war. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but just know that things got crazy. And then on top of that, due to all these intense circumstances, Iris and Roman finally confessed their love to each other. I just couldn't deal with so much emotion. I had to put it down, and I was like, I'm just gonna sit this one out and just wait till tomorrow and read again and finish it. I am definitely understanding why this made it as one of the best books of 2023 because wow, this has left an impression on me. I'm shook. On another note, I have started Yellowface. I actually started listening to it on Audible. I'm literally only like a few minutes in. Yeah, I'm literally 7 minutes in, so I'm on chapter 1 and I'm already enjoying it. I think it's because of the narrator. Her name is Helen Laser. I looked her up. Just the way she narrates is making it so much more interesting. But all I really know about this book and all I've heard is really just by the 7 minutes that I've listened to it, that it's about this woman. She's an author, but she's not that successful at writing books. She hasn't had a best-selling book or anything like that, but she has a friend that is like a very famous, well-known, successful author, and she died. What I've heard is that after she died, she finds a story or something that her late friend was writing, and she takes ownership of it and doesn't tell anybody that it was actually her late friend's story. She just, hey, this is my story. So I guess she doesn't have the best morals, but the narrator is really making this a movie, so I'm already enjoying it and I will keep you guys updated, but so far things are looking up. I am on chapter 18 and I have flown through it, obviously because for the most part I've been listening to it on Audible. I highly recommend listening to it. The main character, June, is just, she makes some very questionable decisions, but I feel like that's obviously the point of the book. So I have gone through the reviews on Goodreads and a lot of people just despise her character because it's a very unlikable character, which I 100% agree. I also know that that's the point. I'm not mad at it. I think that I get all the icky feelings as the reader or the listener, just kind of hearing how she acts and how she justifies her very terrible actions. It's just weird because you're kind of in her head and you're kind of seeing her point of view, how she justifies all of her lack of morals and integrity. Nonetheless, I am really enjoying this and I've flown through it. Like I literally started it yesterday and I'm probably gonna finish today because there's like 24 chapters. So yeah. Alright guys, it's been quite a few days since I finished Yellowface and Divine Rivals and I realized I haven't even given a review. So let's talk about it. With Divine Rivals, I did not want this book to finish. I literally took like 3 days to read 50 pages on purpose because I just could not, like my emotions, I just couldn't deal. I just couldn't let go. I didn't want it to end. I honestly think this is my favorite fantasy book ever. I literally love Iris and Roman. I think they're one of my favorite characters now. The way this book ended is like scary. I'm scared to see what happens in the next book now because the way this ended, I honestly just I don't even know what to say about it. I don't want to give like too much information. I feel like in my other clips reading this book, I kind of spoke about the premise of this book. But just know that it ended on a very, I wouldn't want to say cliffhanger, but like you already know how the next book is going to start. It's not in a good place. Just know that. I ended up rating this 5 stars, and honestly, this is like a 6-star read for me. This was everything and more. Every time I was reading, I did not want to put it down, but at the same time, I didn't want it to end. I love this book so freaking much. I think that right now, this is like my favorite book of all time, and I'm not even exaggerating. Like, this is just everything. Then I finished listening to Yellowface. I read like 2 pages in the actual book. I listened to it on Audible, like I mentioned previously, and I ended up rating this 4.75 stars. The narrator did an excellent job, as I've said like 20 times. It was like a stream of consciousness, like you were in her head, in the main character June's head. So I was reading like a lot of the reviews, and a lot of people's complaints were that her lack of morals and integrity, she was just a very unlikable character, and I 100% agree. I don't love her persona. I don't like who she is. Like, if this was a real person in real life, I would not associate myself with this type of person. That was the whole point of this book. Like, literally the name is Yellowface. Way R.F. Kuang wrote this book, honestly, to me was just so compelling, and you're just constantly intrigued to know more. I was listening to this audiobook. I literally finished it in 2 days because every moment that I had, every opportunity that I had to press play, I was pressing play, and I was so into the storyline. And I don't know, I think that R.F. Kuang, I think the point of view she had to put herself in to write this character is insane. It's definitely not going to be for everyone, because I know some people just don't like a book if they don't like the character. There's so much more to it too. Like, it talks a lot about the publishing industry and like how everyone interacts and why they interact and like the ulterior motives in that industry. The only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is because it just didn't give me that 5-star feel. At first I was like, ooh, maybe this might be a 5-star, but I don't know, something about it didn't give me the 5-star feel, and it might just be because I'm not in love with the character. Now, our next book is going to be Berry Pickers, and I think this is about a brother remembering his experience after his sister disappears. In Maine, a young girl named Norma grows up as the only child of an affluent family. Her father is emotionally distant, her mother frustratingly overprotective. Norma is often troubled by reoccurring dreams and visions that seem more like memories than imagination. So I think this is Joe remembering his sister's disappearance, and I think another family might have taken Norma, which was a sister, and she has no idea about the truth. That's just my guess. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But this also made it on the Barnes & Noble Best Book of 2023, or the runner-up. We're gonna start this and see what this is about. This cover is really cute. I really don't have any expectations because I haven't really heard any people talk about this. Alright guys, I think we are most definitely due for an update. It has been quite a few days since the last time I feel like I'm always saying that. It has been like a week since the last time I checked in with you, actually over a week. Did start reading the Berry Pickers. I took the dust sleeve off just because it's kind of annoying when I'm reading, but I am already on page 95, chapter 6. The end of chapter 5 was quite literally traumatic for me, and I was about to start crying. I feel like it's only gonna get worse, and I read some of the reviews on Audible because I thought about listening to it. I read in the reviews that it's like a very sad book, so I was like, let me just read it so I can read it at my own pace. This is dual point of view. The point of views are Joe and Norma. They are siblings. I think they're from Nova Scotia originally, but they are native. They go to Maine every summer, I believe it is, or like certain seasons to pick berries. It starts with Joe's point of view, and he's remembering his childhood. He mentions that his little sister Ruthie gets lost that season, and Norma is actually Ruthie. So she actually got abducted. Another family stole her basically, and they've been lying to her about her entire life. They've been lying to her about being her real parents or not being her real parents and all of that. It's just dual point of view right now, and they're both remembering like their childhood. Now they're older. Joe is sick. talking more about how Norma's like asking her parents all these questions. Her mom is, or her mom, the woman that stole her, I believe. Still haven't explained how she ended up in that household, but basically the mom gets these headaches every time she asks, or she used to ask her questions about like, why am I tanner than you guys? Or why don't we have any childhood pictures of me? Really, her mom was just mentally ill. She just gets nervous anytime Norma questions her. It's getting like heart-wrenching right now. Tugging at my heartstrings, like I'm sad. Something like so sad happened. They just had a tough life. Okay, so there are quite some trigger warnings to check if you want to delve into this book. But so far, I do really like the author's writing. Amanda Peters is her name. I think that she definitely has a way of making this book immersive, if you will. It's kind of one of those books that you pick up and you don't really care to put down because you're actually just forgetting about the rest of the world. I think that this book is just like really sad. It's trauma after trauma. Right now, we're going through Norma, aka Ruthie's life as an adult. She's kind of remembering that part of her. We're not talking about her as a child anymore. She kind of goes through something traumatizing, and she talks about, I feel like if I give too many details, I might spoil it, and I don't want to spoil it. So far, my thoughts are that I can see why it was voted as one of the best books of 2023. I feel like it's very just heart-wrenching, like it tugs at your heartstrings. Guys, we finally finished all 3 books. I am due for an update of Berry Pickers because I did finish that a few days ago, and I ended up rating this 3.75 stars. This book was sad and it was a tearjerker for me. Basically, it's dual point of view between Norma and Joe. Joe is just remembering his childhood and his sister that disappeared out of nowhere just sitting on a rock. He goes throughout his life and how that event affected him and other very traumatic events that occur in that family. In Norma's point of view, she is just talking a lot about these dreams she gets and how emotionally unavailable and uncomfortable her parents were with her, and how she always felt like there was a secret but nobody would speak up. There was always tension. She was always just like walking on eggshells. And so they both are talking about their childhood, and it's almost like a timeline. It goes through a timeline. It's dual point of view within that same time frame up until they're older. The end is pretty predictable in my opinion. Like, it was somewhat predictable, like you know it's gonna get to that point at some point. But these are just the type of books that I don't pick up because of how much trauma and how many trigger warnings. Like, I was crying and just sad. I think that I definitely see why it was voted best books of 2023, because if you like literary fiction, then I see why you would love this book, because it does make you cry. It does make you feel all of the emotions. It talks about very important topics that happen in the real world, so I think that it's very touching, and it was a compelling story for sure. But also there was like a part somewhere in the middle that I just did not care for, and I was skimming through, and it was in Joe's point of view, which I didn't love. Joe's point of view, I more so enjoyed Norma's point of view. I liked her part of the story. Joe's part of the story I disliked, and mostly because I just didn't like his character. He wasn't the best person ever, so that just kind of threw me off. Like, every time it was Joe's point of view, it was like harder for me to get through the chapters. And that's another thing, the chapters were so long, some of the chapters, that I was like, dude, when is this going to end? Definitely see why people would love it. It is a good book. Her writing is good. It's just not my type of read. So yeah, I rated it 3.75. And then we got a 5 6-star read. And we have a 4.75 read. So I see why people love these books for sure, why they were voted best books of 2023. And we got some good reads out of here. I normally wouldn't pick up Yellowface or the Berry Pickers. So it was fun making this video because I kind of got out of my comfort zone, and I also discovered Divine Rivals, which is literally my favorite book ever now. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it, and I hope to see you guys in my next one.